In 2010, the CDC of the American government estimated that every 1 in 60 children is born with autism. With such an astounding statistic, it is important to know how to communicate with people who have autism spectrum disorder. My name is Fallyn Thompson, and today I will be teaching you about how to have a relationship with an autistic person. The updated website for the Autism Speaks organization defines autism spectrum disorder as being characterized by social interaction difficulties, communication challenges, and a tendency to engage in repetitive behaviors. These qualities are important to take into account when you're around an autistic person. I can talk to you about having a relationship with somebody who has autism because I live with my autistic 11-year-old nephew. When you're around somebody who has autism, it's important to remember that they have problems with social situations, they communicate differently than other people might, and they often engage in repetitive behaviors. That being said, I have a lot to teach you today, so let us move into the first point. People with autism often have trouble with social situations. They have problems connecting with others and sharing attention on an object or person. This is what makes it hard for autistic children to play with other children. They also have a problem understanding emotion, and this makes it hard for them to have friendships and connect with other people on a deep level. Let's move into the second point. People with autism have problems with communication. According to ASHA.org, autistic people may have a hard time understanding hand gestures, understanding and using words, having conversations, or learning to read or write. This is important to take into account when you're communicating with somebody who has autism because the way that people usually communicate may not be so effective. You'll have to be patient when you're with somebody with autism because you'll have to learn their ways of communication to be able to bond with them. Once you do this, then you'll begin to form a very sweet friendship. Let me move into my final point. People with autism often have repetitive behaviors. Other people may not understand why a person with autism has unusual tics about things. According to Autism Speaks, repetitive behaviors may include hand flapping, rocking, jumping, and twirling, arranging and rearranging objects, and repeating sounds, words, or phrases, also known as echolalia. In 2014, at TED Talks held in Washington, D.C., autistic Rosie King said, "When my imagination takes hold, my body takes on a life of its own. When something very exciting happens in my inner world, I've just got to run. I've got to rock backwards and forwards, or sometimes scream. This gives me so much energy, and I've got to have an outlet for all that energy." When you're around somebody that has autism, you have to be able to accept them and accept the things that they do. To conclude, today I've told you about how to interact with people who have autism. People with autism have problems in social situations, they have problems communicating, or they're different in their way that they communicate, and they often have repetitive behaviors. Rosie King said that people are so afraid of variety that they try to fix everything into a tiny little box with really specific labels. Don't put autistic people into a box. They're all different and they're all special. They all have their own tics, and this is what makes them unique. A famous quote by Dr. Stephen Shore, as quoted on artofautism.com, says, "When you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism."